In 2019, 3 quantum physicists walked away from an experiment that proved something so disturbing. The entire project was immediately classified. One scientist vanished, another stopped speaking, terrified of his own thoughts. The third wrote in her final report, "We are not observing reality, we are weaponizing consciousness." What did they discover? That human thoughts don't just observe the quantum world, they collapse it. They force reality to choose, just like in the double-slit experiment, but without any machine. Pure consciousness, collapsing particles into definite states with 78% consistency. And the moment they scaled it up, reality itself started to push back. The effect didn't stop when the experiment ended. Subjects reported they couldn't stop collapsing reality around them. Every focused thought became real. Leaked documents now suggest governments have known about this for decades. If you want to explore every mind-bending revelation that challenges what you think is real, subscribe right now. In 2019, a team of quantum physicists did something that was never meant to see the light of day. They conducted an experiment that proved human thoughts don't just observe reality, they collapse it. The results were so disturbing that 3 scientists on the project refused to continue. Another completely disappeared, and the entire study was buried under 7 layers of top-level classification. But the data leaked, and what it reveals will fundamentally change how you think about thinking itself. Before we go any further, if you're ready to explore more mind-bending scientific mysteries that challenge everything you thought you knew, hit that subscribe button right now, because once you understand what I'm about to tell you, there's no going back. You will see your own mind, your own thoughts, in a completely different light, forever. Let me take you back to where it all started, the double-slit experiment. You've probably heard of it. It's a cornerstone of quantum mechanics. You fire tiny particles like electrons at a barrier with 2 slits. When you're not looking, the electrons act like waves, passing through both slits at once and creating an interference pattern on the other side. But the moment you try to observe which slit the electron goes through, the wave pattern vanishes. The electron suddenly acts like a solid particle, choosing one path. The act of observation changes the outcome. This has been accepted science for over a century, but here's the secret, the part they don't usually talk about. Science has never precisely defined what observation really means. Is it the measurement device itself? Is it a photon bouncing off the electron? Or is it something else entirely, something conscious? In 2019, a secret joint research team decided to answer that question once and for all. The project was led by Dr. Sarah Chen, a neural quantum physicist who had spent 15 years building advanced brain-computer interfaces. Her co-lead was Dr. Markus Volkoff, a theoretical physicist specializing in the mysteries of consciousness. Together, they created something they called the Neural Quantum Apparatus, or NQA. Its purpose was simple and terrifying: to connect human brain activity directly to isolated quantum systems. No machines, no detectors in between. A direct, unfiltered link from a human mind to particles existing in a quantum superposition. The setup was both elegant and unnerving. They used trapped ions, individual atoms, suspended in electromagnetic fields, floating in a state of pure potential, like Schrödinger's cat, both alive and dead at the same time. Meanwhile, test subjects wore advanced EEG caps, but these were no ordinary brainwave scanners. They were fitted with quantum sensors capable of detecting the unique electromagnetic signatures of specific, focused thought patterns. The hypothesis was bold. If consciousness itself is the true observer, the thing that collapses the wave function, then a focused thought alone, without any physical measurement, should be able to force a quantum system to choose a definite state. The first official test was on March 14, 2019. The subject, codenamed Delta 7, was a trained meditator with incredible mental focus. He was placed in a sensory isolation chamber, cut off from the outside world. In a separate lab, a trapped ion was held in a superposition of 2 energy states, spin up and spin down, existing as both simultaneously. Delta 7 was given a single instruction, focused intensely on one outcome. Spin up, he was told to visualize it, to intend it, to will it into existence. For 60 seconds he held that single thought with unwavering laser-like precision. When the team measured the ion afterward, it had collapsed. It was in the spin-up state. A wave of excitement went through the lab. They ran the test again. The result, spin up. They ran it again, and again, 17 times in a row. The ion collapsed to the exact state the subject intended. The probability of that happening by pure chance is less than 1 in 100,000. They had just demonstrated that focused human intention could directly influence quantum reality. But Dr. Chen was a skeptic. She needed to be sure. What if it wasn't the thought itself? What if the brain's own faint electromagnetic field was somehow physically interfering with the equipment? To rule this out, they designed the ultimate test. They moved the ion chamber 300 meters away from the subject, shielding it behind layers of solid lead and copper, making any physical influence impossible. They ran the test again, Delta 7 focused, and from 300 meters away, through layers of shielding, the particle collapsed to his intended state. Distance didn't matter, physical barriers didn't matter. It was the intention itself, traveling through, well, they didn't know what. Wasn't a signal. it was a direct influence. The implications were staggering, and this was only the beginning. The experiment was about to get much, much stranger. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because in the next part, we'll uncover what happened when they pushed the experiment even further, and why it led to a total project shutdown and a deep, dark cover-up. You won't want to miss it. By May 2019, they'd run over 4,000 trials with 12 different people. The consistency rate, a staggering 78%. It was clear, when a trained mind focused on a specific quantum outcome, that outcome happened way more often than chance would allow. They put it all into an internal report, titled Consciousness as Non-Local Observer, Experimental Confirmation. That report was never supposed to see the light of day, but a journalist named Amanda Reeves got a copy. She's the reason we know any of this. The reason you're hearing this story right now. And this is where things get darker. Dr. Volkov, the lead researcher, proposed a follow-up. He called it Phase 2. If one mind can influence a quantum system, what happens when multiple minds focus on the same thing? He called it coherence amplification. They brought in 6 subjects. All were highly trained meditators, and all had already shown they could do this individually. They synchronized their focus onto a single trapped ion. The instruction was simple and identical for all of them. Visualize the ion collapsing into a spin-up state. What happened next shattered everything they thought they understood. The ion didn't just collapse to spin up. The entire quantum system went haywire. Detectors picked up fluctuations that shouldn't exist. Energy spikes appeared out of nowhere. The ion seemed to flicker between states faster than the laws of physics, faster than the Heisenberg uncertainty principle should allow. And then, for exactly 4 seconds, every single detector in the lab went completely dark. No readings, no data, nothing. When the systems rebooted, the ion was there, in a definite spin-up state, just as they'd intended. But the electromagnetic signature inside the chamber had changed. It was as if the fabric of space itself had been rewritten. Dr. Chen, another scientist on the project, wanted to shut it all down. In her personal log, which was later leaked, she wrote, "We are not observing quantum mechanics. We are weaponizing consciousness. This must stop." But Dr. Volkov saw it differently. He believed they were on the brink of the most important discovery in human history, the definitive proof that mind and matter are not separate entities, that consciousness doesn't just observe reality. It actively constructs it. He pushed hard for Phase 3, the multi-target test. Now, if this is starting to sound like science fiction, just remember the double slit experiment. The one where particles literally seem to know when they're being watched. That's not fiction. That's real, measurable science, replicated in thousands of labs all over the world. What Dr. Volkov wanted to test next was whether consciousness could collapse multiple quantum systems at the same time. Could one focused mind affect 10 particles, 100, 1,000? And if it could, what would that mean for the shared reality we all experience? If you're starting to feel like the world around you is a bit less solid than you thought, you're not alone. And if you want to keep exploring the cutting edge of science that's rewriting the rules of existence, make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next is going to shake you, I promise. Phase 3 began in August 2019. They scaled up the experiment. 100 trapped ions, all in a state of quantum superposition. Subject Delta 7, the same meditator from the very first successful test, was asked to collapse all of them to the same spin-up state, not one by one. Simultaneously, he was shown a visual grid of all the particles, flickering between states. His task was to simply hold the intention that all of them, at once, would collapse to spin up. He focused for 5 minutes, the longest sustained mental effort ever recorded in the study. When they measured the ions, 93 of them were spin-up, 93% alignment. The statistical probability of that happening by chance is so low, it's effectively zero. We are talking about odds in the trillions to 1 against. It worked, but here's the deeply disturbing part. Subject Delta 7 reported something strange afterward. He said that while he was focusing, he felt like he wasn't alone. He felt other minds in the space with him, observing the particles. When they asked him to describe it, he said it felt like the system itself was pushing back, as if reality itself was actively resisting being changed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the mysteries of our universe. When Dr. Chen looked at the neural data, she knew she was seeing something impossible. Delta 7's brain activity during those 5 minutes showed patterns never recorded before. Theta waves synchronized across both hemispheres, gamma bursts in regions linked to spatial awareness and intention. But there was something else, strange electromagnetic anomalies around his skull, frequencies that didn't match any known brainwave. Dr. Volkov called them echo patterns, as if Delta 7's thoughts were literally reverberating through the quantum field itself, leaving traces behind. 2 weeks later, Delta 7 quit the study. In a private conversation with Dr. Chen, which she secretly recorded, he confessed that he couldn't stop collapsing things. He said that every time he focused on an outcome in daily life, no matter how small it happened, he'd think about a specific parking spot being open, and it would be there. He'd imagine a friend calling, and his phone would ring within minutes. At first, he dismissed it as coincidence, but it kept happening, over and over again. He described it as a curse, because he realized his thoughts were destroying other possibilities. Every time reality collapsed into what he wanted, other times other versions of himself making different choices was simply erased, gone. He left the program in September. When Dr. Chen tried to follow up with him in November, he didn't respond. By January 2020, his apartment was found empty. No forwarding address, no social media, no trace. Delta 7 had vanished. Dr. Chen began to suspect he wasn't running from the study. He was running from his own mind. Soon, the other subjects started reporting similar experiences. Subject Epsilon 3 developed acute anxiety, terrified to think clearly about anything because she didn't want to collapse the wrong reality. Subject Gamma 9 entered a dissociative state and stopped speaking entirely. Therapists discovered he had deliberately fragmented his focus, training himself to never think about anything with intention. He believed every coherent thought was an act of violence against the multiverse. By March 2020, 6 of the 12 original subjects had dropped out. The rest all showed signs of psychological trauma, but Dr. Volkov wanted to continue. He argued the symptoms were just temporary, that the subjects just needed to adapt. He even proposed Phase 4, a collective focus experiment. He wanted to see if a large group of untrained people, all focusing on the same outcome, could collapse a macroscopic quantum system, not just particles or ions, something bigger, something real-world. Dr. Chen refused. She went straight to the oversight committee, presenting the psychological evaluations, the disappearances, the bizarre data anomalies. She demanded the project be terminated immediately. On April 9, 2020, the Neural Quantum Apparatus was dismantled. All data was classified. All subjects were placed under strict non-disclosure agreements with severe legal penalties. Dr. Volkov resigned in protest, and Dr. Chen took a sabbatical. The official story was that the experiment was inconclusive, but a journalist named Amanda Reeves didn't buy it. She spent 2 years tracking down former subjects, obtaining leaked documents, and verifying data. In 2022, she published a series of articles that blew the entire thing wide open. The public reaction was mixed. Skeptics called it pseudoscience. Believers claimed it was proof of manifestation and the law of attraction. But behind the scenes, scientists quietly started replicating the experiments, smaller scale, different methods, and the results kept coming back the same. Consciousness affects quantum systems, thoughts collapse probabilities. It's real, it's measurable, and it's terrifying, because if it's true, then every single thought you've ever had has shaped reality. Not metaphorically, literally. What do you think about this? Does our consciousness have that much power? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that challenge what we think we know. Now, here's the part that should keep you awake at night. If individual thoughts can collapse quantum states, what about collective thoughts? What happens when millions of people think about the same thing at the same time? Think about elections, disasters, viral events. Are we as a species constantly collapsing reality into the version we collectively focus on? And if so, who decides what we focus on? Who controls the narrative? Who shapes the thoughts that shape the world? There's a leaked memo from 2021 with an unknown origin that circulated in certain academic circles. This memo suggests that intelligence agencies have been researching consciousness-based reality manipulation since the Cold War. It implies that meditation programs, mass media influence, even the social media algorithms we scroll through every day, are all tools to direct collective focus, to collapse reality in specific, predetermined directions. Whoever controls what people think about, controls what becomes real. Now, that might sound like a conspiracy theory, but it's the logical conclusion of quantum consciousness theory. If you're still watching, if you're still with me on this, then you read part of a very small group of people willing to stare into the abyss of this idea. And I need you to subscribe right now, because the deeper we go into these territories, the more you'll want to understand, the more you'll need to know. This isn't just entertainment. This is your reality. Literally. Let me give you a real-world example. The placebo effect. For decades, medicine has known that belief alone can heal. You give someone a sugar pill, tell them it's a powerful new medicine, and their symptoms improve. Not because of chemistry, but because of belief. Because their consciousness collapses the probability field of their own body into a healthier state. This isn't mysticism, it's documented fact. It's the very reason double-blind studies exist, to control for the observer effect, to control for consciousness collapsing outcomes. Now, scale that up. What if entire societies are essentially placeboing their way through reality? What if the reason certain economic predictions come true is because everyone believes they will? And that collective belief collapses the quantum probability of market behaviors into the expected outcome. What if wars happen not because they're inevitable, but because enough minds focus on conflict, collapsing the peaceful alternatives right out of existence? Dr. Chen, in an interview with Amanda Reeves back in 2023, said something truly haunting. She said, "We think we're observing the world, but we're sculpting it. Every thought is a chisel, every focus is a hammer, and we're all sculpting the same block of marble, fighting over what shape it should take." The tragedy is that most people don't even know they're holding tools. But there's another layer to this, one that those leaked documents only hint at. If thoughts collapse reality, then what about dreams? What about our unconscious thoughts? What about the billions of neural processes happening below our awareness every single second? Are those collapsing reality too, or is it only conscious intention that truly matters? The data suggests it's both. That consciousness is a spectrum, and that the more focused, the more intentional the thought, the more powerful the collapse. But even our idle thoughts, our passing impulses, have an effect. It's tiny, subtle, but it's cumulative. Imagine that. Imagine that every stray thought you've ever had, every worry, every hope, every fear, every moment of intense focus has contributed to the shape of your reality. Not metaphorically, physically. Your life is the sum total of your collapsed probabilities. The job you have, the relationships you're in, the place you live, even the body you inhabit. All of it is the result of billions of micro-collapses, most of which you were never consciously aware of. You are not just living in reality. You are living in the reality your mind, and the collective mind, has constructed. Thanks for watching. Do you and forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you and miss our next deep dive. See you in the next one. Here's the part that gets even more disturbing. If your thoughts collapse your reality, and my thoughts collapse mine, what happens when we interact? When our realities overlap? Are we in a constant state of negotiation trying to find a shared collapsed state? Is what we call consensus reality just the average of billions of individual collapses? And if that's true, what happens when someone with a really strong, focused mind enters the room? Do they override everyone else? Do they bend the shared reality toward their own intention? Think about it. History is filled with people who seem to bend reality to their will. Visionaries, leaders, even tyrants, individuals who made the impossible happen, seemingly through sheer force of will. We call it charisma or influence. But what if it's something more fundamental? What if some people are just naturally better at collapsing reality? What if they're what you might call quantum dominators, consciously or unconsciously, forcing the field of probability to align with their desires? The leaked documents I've been studying have a section titled Dominant Observers. It describes a small group of test subjects who showed way higher reality collapse rates than anyone else. It wasn't because they meditated more or trained harder. It was something intrinsic, something neurological. Their brain structures allowed for a more coherent, more sustained focus. The memo suggests that these individuals are out there, living in the general population. They walk among us, shaping our shared reality more than the rest of us. And if you could identify them, train them, and weaponize them, you could potentially control consensus reality itself. Now, before we get to the final, most shocking revelation, I need to ask you something. If you've watched thus far, you're clearly someone who thinks deeply. You question things. You're not afraid of uncomfortable truths. That makes you rare, and I need your help. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about all this. Have you ever felt reality shift or bend around your thoughts? I read every single comment because I'm building a community of people who are awake to what's happening, people who understand, so please, share your experience. You are not alone in this, okay? The final revelation. In 2024, a second whistleblower came forward. This person wasn't a scientist, they were a data analyst for a government contractor. They released encrypted files showing that since 2015 there have been coordinated programs to study and manipulate collective focus. We're talking about massive online campaigns designed to get millions of people thinking about the same thing at the exact same time. This isn't about advertising or political propaganda. This is about reality manipulation. The goal is to collapse specific outcomes into existence. Elections, market crashes, maybe even so-called natural disasters. These files suggest that if you can get enough people to focus on a specific idea, even for a moment, even subconsciously, you can tip the probability field. You can make the unlikely become likely. You can make the impossible become real. And the tools to do this are already in place. Social media algorithms, 24-hour news cycles, viral content, memes, all of these are potential vectors for mass cognitive focus. All of them are potential weapons in a war you didn't even know was being fought. The battle for your mind is a battle for reality itself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more. An analyst, known only by the pseudonym Cypherblack, said something in a recently leaked interview that will send chills down your spine. He said, "You think you're scrolling through entertainment, you think you're engaging with content, but every time you focus, every time you pay attention, you're collapsing probabilities." And there are people who know this. People who design the content you see to direct your focus exactly where they want it. You're not the user, you're the weapon. So here we are, at the end of this journey, and you have to ask yourself a question. Now that you know this, now that you understand that your thoughts, your focus, your consciousness is actively collapsing reality every single second, what are you going to do with that information? Are you going to be more careful about what you think? Are you going to take control of your focus? Or are you going to let it be directed by others? Because here's the truth. Whether you believe this or not doesn't matter. The experiments happened. The data exists. Consciousness collapses. Quantum states. That's not up for debate anymore. The only question is what you do with that knowledge. Do you become an active sculptor of your reality? Or do you remain clay, shaped by the thoughts of others? Dr. Chen, in her final interview with Amanda Reeves before she disappeared, ended with these haunting words: "I spent my career trying to prove that consciousness matters. I succeeded, and now I wish I hadn't, because the responsibility is overwhelming. Every person who learns this truth has to carry the weight of knowing that they are, in every moment, creating the world, not just for themselves, for everyone." If you want to dive deeper into the science that's rewriting reality, if you want to stay ahead of discoveries that will change everything, subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. There are more experiments, more leaks, more truths waiting to surface, and I'll be here to bring them to you, every single one. The quantum field is listening. Your thoughts are collapsing it right now. The question is, into what? Choose carefully, because the reality you create is the reality you'll live in. And now that you know, you can never unknow. Welcome to the war for reality. You've been drafted, whether you want it to be or not. Think about that.